We are having a rough toddler / mommy day today, so I thought since it's nap time, it's quiet, I already finished some self-care, I would take the opportunity to talk through some of the strategies that I use to survive tough days. I think this is particularly applicable to a stay-at-home parent just because your time with your child is so long, but this is definitely just parenting strategies in general. Take them or leave them. Again, I'm not a professional parent or any of that, but this is what works for me in general. Okay, so a little bit of backstory. Ani did not nap yesterday. She did not sleep well last night. She happened to see Lauda leave today. We normally do a whole little routine of goodbye and then a little bit of screen time, and Lauda slips out. That did not go to plan today, so just from the get-go, we have had lots of, I'm not even going to call them tantrums. She's really too young to throw tantrums, but lots of big emotions that she can't handle in quiet ways. Totally developmentally appropriate, but that doesn't mean as a parent it's any less easy to handle, especially when it's one after another, which is what we've been having today. So I'm going to break my strategies up into sort of in the moment strategies, general strategies to survive the day, and then what I do for myself to help myself get through it. So in the moment, when she has a big emotion, I do 3 things immediately. Well, 3/4, now that I'm thinking about it. I cuddle her. We work on take a breath. She's starting to actually really get this. If I pick her up and hold her, and I say, let's breathe. Now you do it. And she's starting to actually really get into it, so I'm thankful for that because it almost always stops the immediacy of the crying or yelling, thankfully. It took a while to get there, but it's working now. And then the next things that I do are I name the emotion that I think she's having. I know that you're angry. I know that you're sad. I know that you're hungry. Whatever it is that caused the initial outburst, I name it and I validate it. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be hungry. It's okay to be sad. And she's a little young for this, to be honest, at least as far as being able to process it. But it's setting a pattern, hopefully, for as she gets older, to be able to start doing that herself. When she feels that certain way, she'll start to realize, oh, I'm hungry, thirsty, tired, angry, whatever it is, and be able to accept it. And it's totally fine to feel those emotions. But particularly with kids, although with some adults too, you have to learn that it's fine to feel the feeling, but you need to work on how you express the feeling. I don't expect for her to calmly express her anger or frustration. It's not reasonable, but I'm laying the groundwork for later. So I cuddle, we breathe, we name, and we validate. And then after that, I immediately offer her some choices and try to move on. I offer her choices once she's calm to give her a little bit of control back over the situation. I make sure whatever choices I offer, I'm fine with, because at the end of the day, I am technically in charge, but a little bit of control can really help kids feel centered and grounded. And then we move on to try to get out of that habit, or out of that pattern, sorry. So with Ani in particular, I'm going to show a little clip, not of her having a meltdown. That's not something we choose to do. We'll show her happy and playing all the time, but I'm not going to show her in her upset, negative moments just because I don't think that's fair. But in this particular clip, we had been playing with a different toy. It didn't go the way she wanted, I think. I'm not entirely sure what set it off. At her age, she can't always tell me exactly what she wants, and so sometimes I don't do the right thing, and that sets it off, and I think that's what happened. But, we cuddled, we breathed, we named, we validated, and then I offered her 2 activities she really likes, musical instruments or playing with her little teddy bears, and so that's what we did. So I'll show you that clip. Now scoop and pour. Switching hands. So like I was saying, this activity does frustrate her for whatever reason. She's generally able to cope with frustration when doing this activity. So now that she's calm, I went ahead and pulled it out. That way, hopefully we can get into the habit of doing some play, having some fun, without the stress, without the meltdowns, and without the tears. It doesn't always work, but often this will reset her attitude for the day. So we'll see, time will tell. And then you can see right here, she is starting to get escalated and upset again. So we took another break, we calmed down. I think in this situation, she was trying to pour back and forth and she couldn't figure out how to get her left hand to do it. So we talked about that. And then in that case, before I even offered her choices, she said, help, please. And so that's what I'm doing here. All right, so as you can see at the end of that last clip, she was getting frustrated. She is working very hard on learning to control her left hand well enough to pour back and forth. So when she was getting upset, I turned the camera off, we calmed down, and then I asked if she wanted help, and she said yes. So I'm just doing hand over hand. Good, yay! In this situation, that's how we moved on. She told me exactly what she wanted. She wanted my help. I hadn't been giving it in the right way. So I did that and we were good to go. That's how I handle a specific situation or a specific big emotion. But in general, when I know she's having this kind of day where lots of things are gonna set her off, I try to set myself up to succeed. What I mean by that is I don't do things that I know she finds exceptionally frustrating. For instance, she has a couple of puzzles that require a lot of manipulation. She's not quite there yet. So I put all of those up early in the morning because she does ask for them a lot, but then gets frustrated because she can't do them. So anything like that that I know is gonna set her off, we get rid of. That's not to say it always works. Lunch is a good example. We normally do, you can have what's served, or you can wait until the next snack or meal. So I made her a lunch that I thought she was really gonna like, and that was trying to set myself up to succeed. Didn't quite work out, but we'll circle back around to that. But it does go into the next one, which is expect and plan for failure. Like I said, I expect things today are gonna set her off. So I have laid out a few activities that I know she generally finds calming. I have a sensory bin ready to go. I'm not gonna have to take time to set it up when I'm ready for that. I have her crayons and paper laid out. I'm not gonna have to set that up when she's ready for that activity. And I was gonna offer her painting at one point because we don't normally do that on Mondays, but she really enjoys it. So before we even got going with the day, after breakfast, I put a big piece of paper down. I had her paints, her paintbrushes, and all of that out. And that worked perfectly. That was one of the choices I gave her after an earlier outburst, and it worked like a charm. So that's how I sort of plan and expect that failure is gonna happen. The next thing that works for Ani when she's having a tough day, particularly if it's because she's tired, is to decrease her screen time and decrease gross motor games. For her, screen time is very, not gonna say calming, but it really holds her attention. The problem is it's very overstimulating for a kid her age. So this morning is an example. When I realized it was gonna be a tough day, she was already having a tough moment. I went ahead and turned the screen time off. I don't plan on giving her any more. Similarly with gross motor, she's a toddler, she needs to move, so we have done some dancing and climbing on the little crash pad, but I'm not going out of my way to suggest those activities because when she gets her physical motors running, it tends to spike her into generally frustration or boo-boos. She's a kid, she falls over, bumps her finger, and today, at least when she's hurt, it really spikes up that reaction. So I've decreased both of those activities. At the same time, I've really amped up our sensory play and our calm play. She's a kid that sensory bins or touching different textures, looking at different things really calms her down. So we have lots of that available. And then things like reading books, doing puzzles that are actually a little too easy for her, where I know she'll succeed. I have offered a bunch of those today, and it generally works. It's important to keep in mind, especially with young toddlers, you're not always gonna get it right. That's happened to us a few times. Ani can communicate a lot of what she wants and needs, but not everything. She just doesn't have enough vocabulary, which means I sometimes get things wrong, which means sometimes I'm the cause of frustration. So it's important to keep in mind that no matter what you do, things are still gonna go wrong, particularly on a day when things are going wrong one after another after another. So, as a mom, part of what I do to handle these days is, like I said earlier, I expect that things are gonna go wrong. Having that in my head does a lot for me personally in dealing with it when it does happen. It's not an end-all be-all, but it does help me to get in the right frame of mind. The next thing I do is lots of deep breathing. I already said before that I meditate. But when she's getting frustrated, I take a quick assessment of how I feel, because periodically her frustration is very frustrating to me. And instead of reacting in a big way, which I'm going to be honest, and sometimes I do because I'm not perfect, I take a very deep breath, or 3 or 4. I encourage her to do the same thing. It calms us both down. The next thing I do, especially if I'm feeling a big emotion, is to her, I name and validate what I'm feeling. It's important for kids to know that adults experience emotions too. We don't always handle them well. So in the rare instance that I do raise my voice when I don't want to, I'll say, mommy's angry, and it's okay to be angry, but mommy shouldn't have raised her voice. Again, she's not getting it at this age, but it's important to set that pattern of communicating. I talked about lowering expectations for the day in general, but I also lower my own expectations. Mondays, I normally catch up on chores from the weekend, sweep and Swiffer the floor, fold and put away laundry, all of that kind of stuff. If it gets done today, great. I'm not expecting to get it done. That's that. The other thing I do personally is I'm working right now on decreasing caffeine. That's out the window today too. If I feel like I want some caffeine, I'm gonna have it. And then for the rest of the week, I can choose to either compensate and have less caffeine on those other days, or I can just chalk this up to it was what I needed to do today and move on. And at least for my mindset, I'm cool with that. And then the last thing I highly recommend, I feel like I'm a broken record with it recently, is self-care. And part of that is when I'm meditating or taking a moment, I just remind myself it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to not have the perfect day. It's okay to be really frustrated we're not having a good day. And then on top of that, like I said, I meditate. I've been drinking lots of water today. We've been doing lots of calm gross motor activities. So we've been doing a lot of walking from room to room. It calms me down. It calms her down. Right after she laid down for a nap, I did a little bit of doodling. I had a guided breathing video on YouTube. I wasn't watching it, but I was listening, and I texted some people for some moral support. So those are the strategies I use to deal with tough days. I'm not going to call them bad days, but tough days. They're not a fix-all. The day is still tough. I wish it wasn't, but they do help me get through it. They help me survive the tough moments, and they help me accept when I'm, maybe I don't respond the way I wanted to. But hopefully you got something out of this video, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.